Okay, we are going to talk about the annual percentage yield now, which is the APY. And the APY is actually the simple interest rate that you would need to earn the same amount that a compound interest rate would earn over the period of a year. So if I invested money in a CD at Veridian, they're going to compound that interest every quarter. So by the end of the year, I'm actually going to make more money than I would with just simple interest. And so the APY would be what that simple interest rate would need to be, how much bigger it would need to be in order for it to earn the same amount that the quarterly compounded interest rate would earn. And the way we're going to find this is by using the APY formula. Okay, so APY, AYP, sorry, APY, I've never done that before. The APY is the annual percentage yield, so it's the simple interest rate that yields the same amount as the compound interest rate. Okay, and it is equal to 1 plus R over N raised to the N, and then the whole thing minus 1. Okay, so that's what it is. This here is a lot like the simple interest formula, but there's no principal and no time. Okay, and so you're just doing that, and then you're subtracting 1. So let me give you an example. So let's say we have an account that earns 7.24% interest, and we'll say compounded daily, let's say. Okay, and I want to know what the annual percentage yield would be. So the annual percentage yield is going to be the simple interest rate that would yield the same amount that 7.24% compounded daily would earn over the period of a year. So what would that simple interest rate be? It would need to be bigger than the 7.24%, right? So using the simple interest formula, we're just going to do 1 plus the interest rate divided by the number of times it's compounded, so 360, raised to the 360, and then you subtract 1. Okay, so let's see what the simple interest rate would be. So it will be 1 plus 0.0724 divided by 360, and then raised to the 360, and then I subtract 1. And this is what I get, 0.075077. It would go on. So if I round this to this is like the decimal form of the percent. So if I round the percent to 2 decimal places, it would be 7.51%. So in other words, in order to earn the same amount that you would earn at 7.24% compounded every day, you would need a simple interest rate of 7.51% over that first year. Okay, this would be the simple interest rate that would yield the same amount over a period of a year. Okay, so that is the annual percentage yield and the annual percentage yield formula. Again, the way to think of this is kind of like the simple interest formula, but there's no P or no T. You're just putting the R and the N in, and then at the end you subtract 1. Okay? So here's why it's useful. Okay? If you have 2 investments and you want to decide which one is better, well, normally you would think the one that has the higher interest rate would be better. So for example, this one here, 6.84% interest. Well, that's higher than 6.81% interest. So we would think, oh, that would be the better interest rate. But then we realize, oh, but the more you compound it, the more interest it earns. This one's being compounded every quarter, but this one here is being compounded every month. So, so perhaps by compounding it every month, that's actually going to earn more interest than this higher interest rate would earn compounded every quarter, right? So how do I know which one is going to yield the most money? Well, I calculate the annual percentage yield for each one, right? So the APY here would be 1 plus 0.0684. This is quarterly, so I divide by 4, raised to the 4 minus 1. Okay, and I get, let's see, 1 plus 0.0684 divided by 4, and then I'm going to raise that to the 4 minus 1. And so what I get here is like, it is 0.0701745, so on. So that's enough to see that to 2 decimal places this would be 7.02% interest. 7.02%. So the interest rate that the simple interest rate to yield the same amount as this one would be 7.02% interest. Well, let's see what this one is here. The APY is going to be 1 plus 0.0681 divided by 12 raised to the 12 minus 1. Okay. So let's see. So I got 1 plus 0.0681 divided by 12 raised to the 12 minus 1. And what I have here is 0.07026628, and so this, if I round this to the percentage to 2 decimal places, would be, the 6 would round that 2 up to a 3, so it would be 7.03%, right? And so you can see that this one actually yields a little more than this one does. Does that make sense? So this one would actually be the better investment. Even though the interest rate is lower, it's actually going to be the better investment because you're compounding it every month. How do you know? You compare the APYs. Whichever one yields the most is the better investment. Okay, so let's try another one here. Which of these two is the better investment? This is being compounded monthly, 8.31%. Okay, and that is a higher interest rate than 8.27%, but this is being compounded daily. So let's see which one is the better investment by calculating the APY. So this would be 1 plus 0.0831 divided by 12 raised to the 12 minus 1. So 1 plus 0.0831 divided by 12 raised to the 12 minus 1. So this is 0.086339, so on. So this would be like 8.63% for the APY. Well, let's try this one here. APY. This would be 1 plus 0.0827 divided by 360 raised to the 360 minus 1. Okay. So we get 1 plus 0.0827 divided by 360 raised to the 360 minus 1. And what I get here is 0.0862055578, so on, and that would be like 8.62%. Again, very close, but this one actually yields a little bit more than this one. Okay, even though that was compounded every day. This is a higher interest rate, and it got compounded less, but this still ended up being more than that. So this would be the better investment. Okay, so it's not always that the lower interest rate is the better investment. It can be. It just depends on what the interest rates are and how much you compound it. It's the way they relate together. And the way that you discern which one is the better investment is by calculating the APY. Sometimes you have to actually go out quite a few decimal places to actually compare and find out which one technically yields the most, even though the difference would be very small. So, as it turns out, I think a law has been passed that a place that offers investments has to give you what the APY is. So, like if you go to Veridian and look at their CDs, they actually list what the APY is. They'll give you two percentages. They'll give you the actual percentage compounded however much, and then they'll give you the APY. And what you do is you compare the APY. But they, I think by law, are obligated to let the people know what the APY is so that the people can make the best decision possible. Also, APY is very similar to APR. So like if you're gonna buy a car or something else where you make monthly interest or monthly payments on the thing that you're buying, they usually use APR, and that's annual percentage rate. So instead of annual percentage yield, it's the annual percentage rate that you're going to be charged. And what that means is different investments get compounded, the interest gets compounded in different ways. And so they're required to give you the APR so you can compare two different loans. The loans can compound the interest differently too, and they're required to give you the APR so you can actually choose which loan is better, which one has a lower interest rate. So for loans, you want a low interest rate. For an investment, you want a high interest rate. And so they have APRs and APYs so that you can compare the two investments.